Honeypots and honeynets are systems that to the attacker look like a regular system. But their only purpose is we want the attacker to attack it. Because if we analyze the attacks, we can figure out which attack vectors are being used, and we can enhance our actual systems. And we can both use internal and external honeynets or honeypots. But the external ones are much more used. And it is very common for them to get compromised because we leave stuff open so it becomes an appealing target. That might be default ports that we haven't locked down or patches we haven't applied. And before we deploy honeynets or honeypots, we obviously need to have an approval both from our legal department but also from our senior management. They are ultimately liable what if something happens. And this is also one of those places where we need to remember the very thin line that can be between entrapment and enticement. Entrapment is making someone commit a crime they didn't have planned already. If it's enticement, they had already planned to do it, you just made it slightly more appealing. And it is, in the end, decided by a court of law which one it is. And the reason we want to involve our legal department is what are the legal and liability ramifications if an attacker launches an attack from one of our honeypots and attacks a competitor or someone downstream? Are we liable? Is it our problem? And most often the answer would be yes. If senior management approves it and legal says it's okay, then we still have to be that 3-year-old kid that says what if, what if, what if? Because most of the IT security issues that can happen by having a honeynet or a honeypot is something that legal and senior management have not thought of. We need to give them the full picture and then they need to make the decision. And the difference between honeynets and honeypots is really just a honeypot is a single system, where a honeynet, kind of makes sense, right, is a network of systems. They can be 5, 10, or a whole server farm that looks like a real environment. But it is just there for us to see how an attacker would attack us. And in most cases, it would be the external ones, the ones that are completely segmented off from our systems. If you look in the graphic over here on the right, you can see the honeynet is segmented off one of our external firewalls, but it is also sending logs back to the SIM system, which then correlates the attacks and gives us an idea of how attackers would attack us and what we can do to protect against it.